So the title of my lecture this evening is The Journey to Deep Green. My aim is to describe our Skanska journey, which is really towards a zero environmental impact. And we're really in the foothills of that journey. But what I'd say from the outset is that we in Skanska are not perfect. Yes, we're leading on much of this agenda, but we're far from perfect. We've got a lot to learn and a lot to move along this journey as well. And what I'd like you to do is to make your own comparisons, either personally as an individual or in your own businesses, and see what collectively we can do to move us further along the whole journey. I'm going to share with you now some aspects of Skanska's journey to deep green. We start with the sustainability agenda. And I think many of us are familiar with the triple bottom line approach. For us, we use the Global Reporting Initiative as the base, which has those three key elements, but we've adapted it for us, so it's not exactly faithful to the original. We have the social element with 4 priority areas. We have the environmental element with 5 priority areas, and I've highlighted 4 because we've used them to develop a tool, which I'll go on to explain in a minute. And then there's the economic element, and for us, we focus very much on the selection and execution of our projects for our clients and the supply chain. So then the colour palette. American English, by the way. That's the language of the group. So no apologies for the spelling. This is our colour palette, and we find it a very useful tool within Skanska. And it starts with vanilla on the left, going through various grades of green to deep green on the right. Vanilla represents compliance with local codes and practices. Green then means that some aspect of the product or service has gone beyond what the local codes require. And then deep green is really a future-proofing of the asset with a near-zero approach. And then down this side, we've really got 4 key areas. So we're measuring energy, that's the operational energy. We're measuring carbon, the embodied carbon that we put into the asset. The materials, the efficient use and reuse, and water. When we're in the deep green section, we have 6 key indicators. And we use this in conjunction with a carbon footprinting tool. And I'm going to go on and explain some projects, not just here, but also globally, to give you some idea of how they map onto this tool. This actually is our first deep green project in Skanska. It's a small primary school, the Birchie School. It has net zero energy because it uses an on-site photovoltaic system. It has insulation to 3 times the US norms. It has what they call hydronic heating. It really means wet underfloor heating. It took me a while to find out what that was all about. Wet underfloor heating. We've carbon footprinted the project. There's a high focus on regional materials, and 98% of construction waste was recycled. And it achieves a net zero water usage by managing and filtering rainwater on site and recycling it. The next, no excuses for, or apologies for switching around the globe, over to Sweden. This is a new office that we're developing and building. And whenever we develop a project, we always develop it from a green perspective. And this is one, an office building in the centre of Stockholm, 55,000 square metres, under construction right now, where the energy consumption will be 50% of standard building codes. Much of this is designed to passive house standards. So we've got triple glazed windows, for example. So what of the future? Well, I've got a few examples which I think are leading edge that we're currently involved in. The first is back to the US. You wouldn't think that, would you? Portland, Oregon, Sustainability Center. It's in the early design stage. If this goes ahead, and we think it will be on site the back end of next year. It's a high-density mixed-use building, which meets this living building challenge, and I'm going to have to explain it in a minute. But a critical feature of the design is that it's going to become a living laboratory because it's going to be a platform for testing some systems of tomorrow. Just a few of the solutions. So it uses ground source heating and cooling. It uses a very large array of photovoltaic panels on the roof, and it has water collection and treatment on site. So again, it's self-sufficient from a water perspective. So the Living Building Challenge. It's a green certification program that goes well beyond any other industry standards that we come across in our normal daily lives. It focuses on net zero energy, net zero water, net zero wastewater, non-toxic materials, and occupant engagement. I think the key thing with this is, if you think about LEED and BREEAM, what we do with LEED and BREEAM is we model what we think the building's going to be like. Here, you have to, you still model it, but then you have to prove its in-use performance for a whole year, and you have to get a tick against every single one of those items before you can get this certificate. So it's quite a demanding standard, and I say the building has to actually live up to it during that time. In the green retrofit market, in Skanska we've got a big focus on green retrofit, mainly US, UK and Scandinavia, I would say. And we think for this market that there will be a need for energy performance guarantees and something that holds the occupants of the building to operate it and live in it in a way that supports that. And this is something that maybe JCT can help promote going forward through the development of a contract that covers this post-construction operation and maintenance phase in a green environment. One of the biggest challenges in this agenda is the whole management of change, because I would suggest to you that the green agenda is really a change management program. And that means that communication as well as leadership need to be tackled to the same degree. The key to creating a green building is to embrace its life cycle. And I can't emphasize enough the need to focus on not just the construction of a building or an asset, but its in-life use, its whole life use. Because typically, construction accounts for 25%, the in-life use 75% of the carbon that it creates. And I think early involvement in design is key, because that's the time when you can influence the whole thing. And in terms of leadership, how good are we in the UK? This is results of a survey, and the thing to focus on is the right. So it's a European Green City survey carried out recently, where London came out 10th. Is that a position that we're happy with? Is that a position we can maintain even going forward? And wouldn't we rather be further up the top? First equal is Berlin and Stockholm. I think we can't stand still. We've been seen as being quite proactive on this agenda, but I think others are moving quite fast. I think there's a strong rationale for going green. The world is changing, and it's changing fast. For me, it's about setting demanding targets, leading by example. It's about benchmarking against the best. And I would suggest for that we have to look outside of construction and outside maybe of UK. It is about, I believe, early engagement, early involvement and collaborative working, because that's the way when you can really get the focus on not just the construction bit, but the operation and maintenance bit as well. It is about understanding that whole life cycle, the bigger picture. And I believe that together we can build in a much more green, sustainable way for the society of the future. That's our journey to deep green within Skanska. I think it's important, even though we live in a competitive world, to share these things widely. We're not going to give all our trade secrets away, but I do think it's important to share it widely because actually that helps all of us move much faster. And as we say in Skanska, share with pride. Thank you very much.